Hi there, my name's Blake with Serpent Layer Whips. Today I'm going to make a video on how to cut out some lace. I've had a couple friends request that I make a video showing them how to do this. So I've got my kangaroo hide here, and let me start by saying that all whip makers might go about this a different way. I know there's lots of different ways to do it, but this is how I do it. And I'm not saying that this is the right way, and there may be a better way. I'm still learning, but this is how I do it, and I've had some success with it. This skin is like not a very good skin. There's actually some, I think, blood stains on it, or some sort of stain, and so I'm going to use this for like bellies mainly, parts of the whip that aren't going to be seen. Alright, so first thing you're going to want to do is round your skin and cut out the parts that aren't really suitable for making lace. But since we're using a lot of the outside to make the belly, we're just going to try and use as much as possible. I usually cut this part off because it's just, it's not as good as this type of leather. And it's usually like really stretchy, like right around here, so you want to go around and check for stretch. Stab myself. This part right here is where the neck it would be, and this is the arm shoulder. So this part is incredibly stretchy. Definitely cut this out. There's another one over here. See how much that stretches? That's just ridiculous. You can't make lace out of that. Alright, so it's a pain in the neck. Alright, so a lot of people would say use a razor, but I find that I like to do it on my lap with a knife, pair of scissors, shears. These are sharp enough that I can just do this here. Cut that out. This is a pretty big skin here. I don't want to cut too much off, just enough to round it, So up here, definitely gonna go around that guy. Probably have to come back in and trim some. See, it's stretches to about right there. If you do use scissors, make sure that your edges are really nice and roundish. It helps when you cut the lace for it to not have these like wobbles in it. So you're going around with your strander and you hit a little bump and it makes a wobble, and you would think it would come out when you resize it and bevel it and whatnot, but it doesn't. But usually it's not that much of an issue because when you braid it, you won't be able to see the wobble at all, but still, you want to try to avoid them. Coming back here to the starting point. Alright, so now you've done that. Go around and test for stretchy parts. There might be a little bit of stretch here and there, but that's okay. So we're going to cut our strands bigger than we want to. Usually this is the part that gives me trouble, and sometimes I just cut this part out and use it for something else. But Still a little bit too much stretch in there for my liking. So, and also check for flaws. See, there's scratch marks, scars, tick marks, tick bites, and those will create incredibly weak parts in the leather. I'm going to try to cut around those. You may even want to draw like a pencil line where that's a little bit better. It's still kind of stretchy, but we'll fix that. Because this is the belly, it's not incredibly important and for it to be 100% perfect, although it is nice if it is 100% perfect. So this is my first belly. It's gonna wrap around this guy. This is my core here. There's spring steel right here, and this is like just normal 2 to 3 ounce cowhide. It'll split down to about 1 millimeter. So I've measured this, and I know that it's 7 millimeters with my calipers. And so that times 4.5 divided by 4 came out to about 7.8. So I'm just going to cut them to close to 8 millimeters. But what I do is, especially on this outside edge, cut it about 25% to 30% bigger than you think it's going to need to be, because it's going to stretch down a lot, so we'll stretch it and then resize it. So what I'm going to do here is I know this part won't stretch very much. This is where the tail would be. So they're going to be about 8 millimeters because I'm going to have to bevel them down to 7.8. So I'm just going to my calipers here. I'm just going to make some marks. Alright, so I got 4 strands. Trying to do this. I've got my phone on a tripod and trying to stay in one spot for you guys so you can see what I'm doing here, if you actually can see what I'm doing. I got my razor here and I got my marks. I'm just going to go ahead and make a little slit here to let the strand or razor get in there. Okay. So this thing is it's going to need to be braided from about here. I made this a little too long. I'm going to cut it shorter, 10 inches. I made it 12 inches. We're going to need a braid to about 30 inches here from this part. And what I'm going to do is just multiply that times 1.5 for this thickness. I know that that's about right. So 1.5 times 30 inches is 45 inches. 45 inches. So what you can do see. Just take a piece of string or a piece of leather and I know this is a foot long. So 1, that's 24, that's 32. And that's about 32, 44. So about right there is where it's going to stop. And when I get to there, I want it to taper down to about 4 millimeters. Probably even thinner, but we can resize it down. It's really not going to be a whole lot of waste. It's only 4 strands. So get your razor in here. I'm using a Den Williams strander here, which I really like a lot. But you can also use an Aussie strander. Or you can even make your own strander, as a lot of people do. Or you can even cut it by hand. I highly recommend learning to cut by hand. I'm just now learning how to do it after doing this like 10 years. So get this to 8 millimeters. Get it in there. Alright. So here we go. Starting off. Hope y'all can see this. Now, I know this part's going to be stretchier, so what I'm going to do is counterclock spins on here and make it bigger. It will stretch down. You can even like pull on it as you're cutting it to tell how it stretches. Another nice feature of these Den Williams stranders. Where you know it's going to be tougher, you make it smaller. Where you know it's going to be stretchier, make it bigger. So I know my handle is 10 inches long. 1.5 times that is it's 25. So oh wait, my previous calculation was wrong. I normally have a calculator, which I use my phone for, and I'm not very good at math, so my initial calculation was wrong. So it was 30 inches, 1.5, 30 is 45, plus 30, that's 75 inches, so it's going to have to come around about here. Yeah. So, let's keep going here. I'm going to turn it clockwise, just a quarter turn every now and then. Alright, so first time cutting lace, the first piece you cut, go back and give it a stretch test. You know, it's a little bit less than 8 millimeters. That's pretty good. It's gonna have to start to taper about 25 inches, so that should be good, but it might need to be a little bit wider next time we cut it. every 6 inches, I'm just giving it a little turn. But I know this part's going to be stretchier, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave that the same thickness, so it will stretch down. Now, pretty sure that's as long as it needs to be. 45, that should be about right. So, your first strand you cut, it's okay if it's a little bit bigger. I'm doing this to show you the way you might want to do it. And you will waste something a little bit more, but it's okay. This outside part is really stretchy and it's kind of hard to get it even. So this is a lot wider than it needs to be. I said it needed to be 4 millimeters. Obviously that's more like 7. But what you can do is with your next strand, you know how much, this is why it's good to cut them all along the same way, same side, instead of just going around in a circle, because you know exactly like where it's going to stretch. So your first one cut thicker, and your next ones you can go by. Your first one. It's back down to 8 millimeters. About. Widen it up a little bit, allow for the stretch. Up to the end of the handle, 15 inches. It's close to it. And then you can just go ahead and start to taper a little bit, quarter turn every 6 inches or so. I'm going to cut these a little bit longer than they need to be so that they allow room for when I put the next layer on, the next bolster on, that it'll give it some taper room to taper down. See, this is getting closer to 4 millimeters. This is kind of more what we want. The next one you want to cut a little bit longer than the last one because it will have taken some of the length out of it. Alright, so this should be a bit longer than 45 inches. Just going to measure it to make sure. It's 30. That's 45, and then we've got a little bit extra room here. Let's go back and test the stretch on that one, see how it did. It's a little bit better. You know, the more you do this, the more you learn to know the leather and... Wait, this is the one. Yeah. Get to know it some. So, after you make cuts, you may have to go back in and round some edges. Nice and smooth. handle. Taper down. Come up with my last strand here. Okie dokie. Squid guy. Just cut that off. Alright, so got our first belly cut out. Forgot to mention that I'm doing like an Australian style, so I'm gonna braid the whole handle. But if you're doing an American style, what they do is they cut it to a yoke, and the leather just wraps around this part, and then it begins to braid at the end of the handle, which ends up making the thong at the end of the handle thicker than the handle. American bullwhips are usually made in this way, but this is an Australian style. Yeah, these aren't the prettiest laces, but let's see if I can show you. You know, if I weren't making a video of this, I could probably do a better job. So this is my hook right here. Hopefully you can see it. If you can't, just know it's there. And what I did is I wrapped a piece of lace around there once. I'm just going to pull it through. Pretty taut, you know. Get all this stretch out of there. Just run through and do that with all these. This tests it for breaks, but also gets all the stretch out of there. Be better if it broke now than when you're plaiting. So go ahead and pull it pretty tight. Probably about 40 or 50 pounds of pressure. Okay, so I'm gonna stop this video here, and I'm gonna make another video so I can set up my camera a little bit better. I'm gonna show you from this point how we're going to resize, split, and bevel our strains. So stay tuned.